Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Touch today, very special one, because LinkedIn does not allow us to run it the standard way in LinkedIn audio format. So I decided to utilize the opportunity that Pat from Australia reserved her time. We will talk just two of us. And the topic today, I think you will love it, Pat. It's the future of language.
Yes, I did like it.
let me start straight away. So let me ask you, what is the first thought in your mind which show up when I say the word language?
Well, it's our main tool of communication. It's the way we communicate with each other. But it's more than that. There's there are so many different languages around the world, and yet we all, when they're all interpreted, we all speak one language. And one of the things that I noticed myself thinking when I saw the topic earlier was, at the turn of the century, I made a commitment that I would develop my language because I wanted my words to be a source for good. I wanted my language to heal, not wound, and I want to be a voice for all that's joyful about humanity. So there was this serious intent about how I would use and focus my language, and so that's a conscious effort, if you like, and in the face of a technology that is having us abbreviate things like texting and all the shorthand that's come with texting, the very brief, abrupt, the less in texting, the less said, the better for those who really enjoy texting, and yet we miss something when we only have that.
You are right, and generally, the topic of this Power of Touch was bigger because my intention was to name it the language of future or the future of language, because there are two different things. But because LinkedIn does not allow me such a long title, so yeah. I choose just the first one. So the future of language. For me, if I say language in Czech language, generally it's called jazyk. And jazyk, it has two meanings. One is the language which you just described, and the second is exactly the same word, is our tongue. Tongue in Czech is jazyk.
Yeah.
So the first thing which came to many people's minds when I say jazyk is this tongue. And generally, tongue is the tool of language or part of the tools, because if you would like to silence someone, and in Middle Ages they did quite frequently, they just cut the tongue out of the mouth so the people will not be able to speak. And I think that your decision to develop your language, it's very interesting because, in Industry 5.0, we speak the language of efficiency, which is, as I said all the time, and we do it right now with you. It's not English. It's the language which you spoke from your heart, and I receive it in my own, and I do exactly the same. And this is exactly the language which will be understood by everyone. And, when you spoke about making the language shorter and shorter because of texting and any others, the latest development is generally not to make it only shorter, but to turn it into pictures. And if I do remember properly, few thousand years, maybe 10,000 years ago, that was the language which was used before. It was in the stone. And we are coming back, which is very sad image, for me at least.
Yeah, I think we look at all those ancient texts which were images. There's a lot historically there we can glean from that, and it's not my forte, but those who I have friends who work more in the spirit world, if you like, and that they understand a lot of the hidden meaning behind some of those symbols. So symbolism is important, but I think we've reached a point where we need to get rid of innuendo. When I first met David Martin, whose movie I shared with you, we were talking and he said, "Oh, joyologist, I love it, Pat." He said, "Do you know, in the future, we may not be, we may not call ourselves David Martin or Pat Armistead. Rather, we will be called by that which we represent." And I said, oh, okay, so I might be joyful empowerment. And he said, yes. And then when I thought about that, it's like, for example, the American Indian have names that represent who they are on the planet and their destiny, their purpose this lifetime, you know, created by their elders to put them on a path, and then they, to this day, still live a life steeped in ritual and ceremony, which a lot of many other cultures we've lost.
If I do remember properly, in Latin, there exists the saying nomen omen.
Okay.
Which generally express that the name indicate the owner or the work of the owner. So it's very close, but we lost it. So we lost this connection. On the other hand, here's a quite interesting story with myself. So I didn't met another guy who told me about the future, and I like really what he told you. But, you know, I get married. And what is crazy, I changed my surname because, you know, my mom was divorced. The first father was not a good father. So I decided to change. It's not so easy to change the surname in my country. So one of the occasions was when I was 18. Second occasion was when you get married. Usually the wife takes the surname of the husband.
Yes.
I did it opposite way. So I took the surname of my wife. Before, my surname was short as this one. So it was 4 letters, D-U-R-A. And I changed it to R-A-D-A generally. So 4 letters remains. But what is interesting, the surname which I have currently means something, and it means advice. Rada in Czech language, it's advice.
Right.
And since I get it, I start to advise people. That's so strange. Yeah. Not immediately. So it took me 10 years to start with that. But generally, it brings me to the journey, maybe. And what is even more crazy, that when I was in Japan, and I all the time, you know, I'm asking frequently. So I love questions. And they rename me to Mr. Question. And they didn't know that Rada means advice. So when I told them, there has been very surprised about it.
Yes,
so,
and
yes.
I have a friend in New Zealand who calls himself a he's not a numerologist, he's a letrologist. So he has a methodology that he follows the pattern. Letters in your name are afforded numbers, and there are patterns and sequences there, and he can use that and predict with great certainty events in your life. When I was in New Zealand, I had him as a guest on my radio show, and he said, how about I do a live reading interpreting your name? And I said, oh, that'd be perfect. So away he went, and he had punched out this timeline, and he was able to demonstrate a whole raft of periods of time in my life when various events had occurred. And he had, you know, we didn't know each other prior to the radio show, and he interpreted all these events with exact timing. I couldn't believe it. It was just extraordinary. And I've seen him be able to say, for example, there were some big earthquakes in New Zealand around about 10 years ago. And he knew by interpreting his own letrology for his name and dates and times, and he left Christchurch, the site of the big earthquake, the day before, knowing that the event was coming, which it did. And he's predicted a whole range of other things. And there's, you know, we've kind of lost touch with a whole range of crafts, I think, for other ways of reading. And I don't mean literally the reading, but to read each other. We have language, and we've got body language, and we make an awful lot of assumptions when we're with people, and then that's our judgment. And yet that it's actually so much more expansive. There's a lot more that the average person doesn't know and hasn't got access to. And it's not, I mean, a lot of people would call that oomy-goomy kind of stuff. It's a bit woo-woo out there. Yet it has a pattern. And everything is full of patterns, like all the leaves in all the trees, examined microscopically, have similar systems. You know, there are various species that look different in the exterior, yet when we narrow it down, they're all the same. So there are these patterns and systems in nature that also inform us. I filmed 4 Aboriginal elders over a 10-day period about 25 years ago. And as they led us through the bush, talking about different sacred sites and the vegetation and the rock formations, etc., birds and bird song, and noticing when it's there and when it's not, and they could predict we're coming up to something, or, you know, clouds are going to form, it's going to rain, all manner of things based on reading the earth around them. Extraordinary.
I do agree that we lost a lot of the ability generally to understand nature, but not only that. We even lost the ability to understand words which has been written before our time. You know, I'm just now holding, I don't know whether you see me on the screen, I'm holding one book in my hand. This book is written in a Czech, and it was written and published in 1924. It's all in Dawn of Humanity.
Right.
It's written by a man. You cannot find almost anything. You find information that he was a teacher on some small school. That's all. He wrote only this trilogy. What is interesting, in 1924, he predicts solar power station in Sahara Desert. He predicts the Chinese to come to Europe and to take over. He predicts a lot of things so accurately that I was so surprised. And this book showed me my granddad, which you know passed away. And it's right now in my possession. It's unbelievable how much exact he was able to predict what will happen in 100 years. And generally, why it was not banned, because he hid many of the messages he hid in between the lines. And this is what I would like to come to, because the next question is, do you think that the language which we should, let's say we should speak in the future, should have the ability to put the messages not only on the lines, but between the lines, so that our creativity can dig out of it? Or it should be clear and narrow, understandable, the same to everyone? Which one will you prefer?
There's the world of the straight and narrow doesn't allow or foster creativity, in my view. One of the things with the technology that's being created at the moment is I'm very concerned that all the neurological processes, and I don't profess to know them all, but that must be there anytime we pick up a pen to write or to draw, right? So that mind onto the page, what we're projecting there, will disappear. Like my grandson's 11, he and I've written 11 books together. I'm nervous that if he starts using Chat GPT, whatever its full name is, that his brain won't form won't develop in the way that it's designed, and the brain would become lazy because this process out there would do it for them. And because we've become such a we want everything quick and easy, so the gems, I know for myself, the gems that have come when I have painstakingly persisted at something, and the mammoth learning that comes along that pathway to, and the level of expansion, and you know, there's a saying, but the mind once expanded, like a rubber band stretched, never goes back. So, you know, you've got this capacity to be increasing the capacity of the mind. And I can see how it'd be useful, but I've not used it and don't have any plans to. I'm writing my third book, and I might well find it useful to use such a tool, but it doesn't place me in the challenging process of bringing forth that which I don't quite... I know I am going to summon through in this book language and concepts that describe my life experiences way better than I've ever done before. And that's because I will have done this really deep work.
Generally, you know, some people already call ChatGPT the language itself.
Yeah.
So for me, I decided I will not use these tools. They are being offered by Google right now, by Microsoft, and by many others. I decided myself not to use them, you know, because there is such a, it's so easy to slip on the way, which will be very easy. So I will not spend 100 hours per week writing the new newsletter. I will just ask ChatGPT, right? Find everything about Industry 5.0 and put it in such a way in a newsletter. But I will lose my connection with Industry 5.0. Because if it's me and I will find some comment, and just now I found 2 articles, generally resulted into 3, published in 2021 in Australia. And the authors used the term Industry 5.0 at the time. They are not related to my work, to Origin, but they are somehow understanding that the next step is under Industry 5.0, which is interesting. And I just now start to prepare a post because all of them changed their positions. All of them, one is, I think, in a rent already. And I would like just to see whether they will reflect, whether they will remember. It was only 1 article, there is no more, you know, and it will be very interesting for me to see whether it remains in their memory or it was just something what they did and forgot. Because for me, every single of these articles found, or recently, you know, I found, and you will love it, I found a music video. It's not a video, it's music on YouTube, and they call it Industry 5.0. It has nothing to do with me. It's just there. So someone it's something like a techno. I don't recognize these styles, but it's called Industry 5.0. It's crazy. So, and without this direct touch with the language, with the real language, I will not get it, you know, and maybe I will be rich and what? I will be rich and silent? No, I prefer to be imperfect and audible. So as we are, 2 of us are right now, you know, for some reason, LinkedIn does not allow me to make this event, which was a regular one. I don't know what's happening. So I did exactly the same what I did before. So it looks like that they would like to silence us. So we choose another tool. The tools are here. Zoom is tool, fine. So we record it here. It has even the one advantage that after we record it, if you will agree, I will upload it to my YouTube channel and we will stream it. Because I think it is so important that we use the language to deliver the message. And this is why we do that.
Yes.
And nobody will stop us.
Yes, and that's the genius, I think, of the human mind. To find a way.
Yes.
You know, when things seem impossible, to find a way, and to, you know, the last 21 years, I have so wanted much deeper access to my intuitive knowing, to and as I sought different ways to polish that, like I learned NLP, I learned about multiple braining. We've got a head, a heart, and a gut brain, and then learned how to align those so that they're working together. Then I found myself functioning in a much more aligned way with my true nature. So, you know, and my aim for myself and for those I teach is to be fully self-expressed this lifetime. And that has different meanings for different people, but to be using all of our intelligences. We rely here in Australia and New Zealand, we adore sport. and academia, especially football. It's top of the list. So, but things like interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, creative intelligence, spiritual intelligence, practical intelligence don't get a look in at all. But we revere these other two. However, the sporting world and the academic world are in some respects crumbling. They're old institutions that haven't changed much, and with so much change that's occurring, you don't necessarily need to go to university anymore to get a degree. You know, you can get a degree when you buy Weet-Bix, kind of, you know, that unique thing that was there and honourable about university study has lost some of its flavour, I think. It's faded a little.
I think, and you mentioned it last time, that the very important part of the life, which is disappearing as well, is the emotional intelligence. And you mentioned it's similar several times in our events, because it is the part which even, you know, when we speak about sport, about football, when we look 100 years back, then the players love the game. They love to play. They don't know how to, but they love to. And today, the players love money.
Yeah.
If they get more, they will switch the club. They don't care. And this is generally, the emotion is lost.
Yeah.
And this is the emotional intelligence which is being lost. And this is exactly about the language, about understanding what it is. And I cannot say about university degree, you know, I was never there, but I don't know whether ever there was an emotional in the education. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know. But I am sure that hunting for more titles or for degrees, it has nothing to do with emotions. At least it seems to me. At the end, maybe you get it when you get the red whatever, how it's the diploma, you maybe get a few seconds of emotions. But what about the rest? Where it's lost? Is there the language in education system used which encourage this? I doubt, to be honest. Because in many universities, when I deliver keynotes, they are strictly going according to the regulations and so on. And different it is in underdeveloped countries like Southeast Asia and so on, Brazil and other destinations, where the people are much more open than in Germany, Czech Republic, or I don't know, US probably as well. So I think that it is important not only to teach the, let's call them children or students, about the value of time, but we have to teach them about the value of a language. Teach them that it is, yes, it's harder to define a right question, but they should spend the time. It's maybe we spend more time writing 10 words instead of one picture, but it is exactly what we need to do. And we have right now, I have here the sign 10 minutes to the end.
Yeah. One of the things that I think also in relation to what we've just been talking about is all of that area is fostering competition. It's not fostering cooperation. Mm-hmm. And all of the language around it is war language. You know, put up a good fight. We've got targets to meet. This is business as well. You know, there's this whole language of we're going to get them, and that's well, it's anathema to me, because there's no room for compassion there. There's no, I like the word co-optition, which is like a meld of cooperation and, working together rather than competing. So that co-opting and bringing others in. And new language is happening all the time, Joyology wasn't here 21 years ago. So, was a pioneering journey, and a product or a series of products have evolved and they've made an impact. And I've got some language that's my own and created as part of the brand, but the creativity has come from taking what didn't belong together and bringing together. And in doing that, for me, it's brought, I've probably said this to you before, but my experience of life, challenge and support came side by side. Whereas before there might have been a gap, have a challenge, and a little bit later some support might arrive from somewhere. But as soon as I made that commitment to be present to my life at another level, then that happened. And then there was just been so much paradox and synchronicity. People are astounded. I have hundreds of little stories. People say to me, where do you get all these stories? And it's like, well, I just step out in intention and something happens.
Do you feel your relationship to Joyology like the relationship of mother and daughter?
Probably, yes. It's been my baby, and I was up for the challenge. Like the idea came to me in a very obscure moment, in a conversation with a magician of all things, and I was like a dog with a bone to nut out, what does this mean? This is a gift I've been given. What does it mean? What do I do with it? How do I pull it together? And 15 months it took me initially I did 2 pilot programs that helped. And then it was extracting from my history what I felt needed to come forward, and then working with improv, acting skills, and with my mentor, who was MD of Saatchi & Saatchi in New Zealand, brilliant creative mind, to forge this new thing in the face of, I might add, no agreement, right? Many of my peers said, never going to happen, Pat.
You know why I ask this? Because I feel exactly the same relationship, only as a father to Industry 5.0. So Industry 5.0 for me is a daughter.
Yes.
And why I mention it, because this is the role of parents to teach the right language.
Yeah. And to be a model, but it's not just a model, it's more expansive than that. I think you lay the seeds. I work with the virtues, and I draw a virtue card every week. Let's say it's forgiveness. And the question or the process that I use is you look to see where it is in your own life. And then as you step out into the world for the next week, you see where it is or not in the lives of those around you. And where you perceive it's absent, that's your opportunity to be a contribution. So once you've drawn the card and done that little process, you just go on with your life. And in 21 years, I've been doing it that long, it's so helped me to become the observer rather than a judger.
And that's the next important step, because I do remember a time when I was an au pair in the UK, and I teach the boy. I have a 8-year-old boy and 4-year-old daughter, and I teach the boy to make a paper plane, you know, and he make it with my support, and then he make it different. And his mother asked me, "Aren't you angry, Michael, with him because he did it a different way?" And I said, you know, I was 20 at the time, and I said, no. You know, when the student outgrow the teacher, the biggest happiness is for the teacher himself. And she didn't understand that. So, and that's so interesting that we can talk and discuss. And I hope that we will have a next time as well, this discussion. Right now we have 3 or 2 minutes left. Yeah. It's going so fast, you know, all the time when we talk together. This is because, you know why it is? That's an interesting question. This is because the time is listening to us. You know, the time is part of our discussion and is joining us. And with a joy, it runs so fast. That's a standard behavior, which means not a single second is being wasted. So that's so important.
Yeah, yeah, yes, indeed.
So we have 2 minutes 30 right now. What is expecting you till the end of this week?
What is what, sorry?
What expects you till the end of the week? So what's your work till the end?
I am actually putting together a new website, which is an updated expression of my offerings, and it's been a challenge because, again and still, I've been looking for that deeper expression, and part of that process has been, I've been Miss Independent all my life, has been asking who can support me with this, who can give me the prompts, the nudges, ask me the question. And so I've pretty much done it all. And a colleague today, an old coach, she said to me, it's all there. It's just the way you've arranged it. It needs to shift. And she made some suggestions. So there's quite a bit of work to do. But I just get it. It's like I got them, all the ideas together, nothing wrong with them. And then it's knowing we were never meant to work independent of others, you know, so inviting in, especially from somewhere where you think, oh, they're so clever, what will she think if, you know, she looks at it and it's looks silly, and yet, you know, everyone wants to be asked for help. Nothing like being, you know, I know for myself, someone asks and it's like, oh, I'd love to help you, of course.
I would like to thank you to taking part in this very special Power of Touch, because we have only 1 minute left. Let me wish you and everybody who will listen to this conversation, have a nice time free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, be visible, audible, and please value the language.
Yes.
Because it is so important to hand it over to next generations.
Yes.
So thanks a lot. And I will send you the uploaded link. And I hope many will enjoy the same as we did today. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Yes.